Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Ethan always believed he was lucky. Not the kind of luck that wins the lottery or finds cash on the sidewalk, but the kind that lets you meet someone like Brianna. She was funny, sharp, and had this way of making even the worst day feel manageable with just a joke or a tight hug. They met at a coffee shop downtown, where she accidentally spilled hot coffee all over his shirt while juggling shopping bags and her phone. The first thing she did was laugh, a loud, full laugh that made everyone in line turn to look. Then she apologized so sincerely, eyes wide and cheeks flushed, that Ethan couldn't stay upset. He thought it was charming. 3 months later, they were living together. 2 years after that, they got married in a simple backyard ceremony at her parents' house. Their life was simple but comfortable. Ethan worked as a software engineer at a tech company, spending long hours fixing bugs and optimizing code, days filled with empty coffee pots and tight deadlines. Brianna managed social media for small local businesses, mostly working from home. When he got back from the office, he'd usually find her on the couch, laptop on her lap, hair in a messy bun, either complaining about clients or sharing internet gossip. Ethan liked that routine. He liked coming home knowing she'd be there, always with some story, always smiling the moment he walked through the door. It was comforting. It was safe. In those early years of marriage, they had that kind of closeness that makes other couples jealous: movie nights with popcorn and tangled feet on the couch, weekends exploring flea markets or trying out new restaurants. Nothing extraordinary, but it was theirs. But in the past few months, something had shifted. Nothing obvious, nothing he could point to with certainty. It was subtler than that. Brianna started going out more, meetups with friends that stretched late into the night, always with vague excuses about drinks or dinner. She mentioned last-minute appointments in passing. Her phone, which used to be left carelessly around the house, was now always with her, screen always face down. She'd even added a passcode, something she'd never done before. When he asked about her day, her answers were vague and rushed, like she was eager to end the conversation and get back to her constantly buzzing phone. There were other things too. Brianna started going to the gym 3 times a week, even though she'd never been motivated enough before for even a walk in the park. She bought new clothes, tighter pieces, totally unlike her usual casual style. She wore more makeup, even when just hanging around the house. And then there were the times she seemed distant, lost in thoughts that clearly didn't include Ethan. He'd talk and she'd take seconds to respond, as if she were somewhere else entirely. Ethan tried to ignore it. Maybe it was work stress. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe he was being paranoid. But the feeling lingered, like an ingrown toenail that hurts every time you take a step. And then came the message that changed everything. It was an ordinary Tuesday night. Ethan was at the kitchen table finishing a report. Brianna was on the couch with her laptop open and headphones on. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him open it. There were no words, just screenshots. Text messages. Intimate conversations full of heart emojis and phrases that made his stomach tighten. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. You make me forget everything. He doesn't suspect a thing. I sometimes feel bad, but then I remember how you make me feel. You make me feel alive again. The name at the top was Bri. His wife. No doubt about it. The messages had her writing style, her slang, even her specific emoji choices. Ethan read each message 3 times, as if repetition might somehow change the meaning. But it didn't. Every sentence was a knife wound, every emoji a reminder that the person he shared his life with was sharing far more with someone else, someone who made her feel alive. Made her forget. Forget him, presumably. He looked over at Brianna, sitting just a few feet away on the couch, watching a reality show with a bored expression. She seemed so normal. She absent-mindedly chewed her nail. A strand of hair fell across her face. She wore that old Nirvana t-shirt she'd stolen from him years ago. How could she be doing this? How could someone so familiar be living a completely secret life? And how had he not noticed? All those signs suddenly made painful sense: the late outings, the guarded phone, the emotional distance. It all clicked into place. Ethan didn't say anything that night. Part of him wanted to confront her immediately, throw the phone in her face, yell, demand answers. But another part of him, the logical one, knew he needed more than screenshots from an unknown number. Who sent them? Why? He needed concrete proof. He needed to see it with his own eyes. The next day, he left work early, telling his boss he wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie, his stomach had been churning since the night before, and he'd barely slept. He went to an electronics store and bought a small GPS tracker, the kind you hide under a bumper. The sales clerk didn't even blink. Ethan paid in cash. When he got home, Brianna was in the shower. He could hear the water running and her humming softly. He slipped out through the garage, nervously glancing around, and crouched beside her car. His hands shook as he attached the device to the rear bumper. It took less than a minute. He came back in, washed his hands, and was on the couch by the time Brianna stepped out of the bathroom. "You're home early today," she said. "Got everything wrapped up faster," Ethan lied easily, surprising himself at how natural it sounded. The first few hours were agony. He kept staring at the app on his phone, watching the little blue dot that represented her car move. She went to the gym, then to the grocery store. Then she came back home. Everything seemed normal. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe the messages were fake, some cruel prank. But on Thursday night, everything changed. Brianna left, saying she was meeting a work friend for dinner. Ethan waved and wished her a good night, watching as she walked out with a large purse and makeup that was far too elaborate for a girl's dinner. As soon as the door shut, he grabbed his phone. The blue dot moved out of the neighborhood, crossed the city, and stopped somewhere Ethan didn't recognize. He zoomed in on the map. A cheap motel on the outskirts, the kind that charges by the hour and doesn't ask questions. He watched the dot stay put. 1 hour. Then 2. Then 3. 3 hours that felt like days. He tried to distract himself but couldn't. He just kept staring at that unmoving blue dot while his mind conjured up images he desperately wished he could erase. When she finally came back, it was past midnight. Brianna walked in smiling, hair tousled, saying they'd gone out for dinner and then had drinks, losing track of time. She talked about the restaurant, the food, the gossip, all delivered with impressive ease, every detail sounding believable. Ethan said nothing. He just nodded, muttered something about being tired, and turned back to the TV, the sound drowned out by the roar of anger in his head. How could she lie so easily? How many other lies had he swallowed without questioning? On Friday, it happened again. Brianna left around 7, saying only that she needed to get out for a bit. The blue dot headed straight back to the same motel. This time, Ethan didn't stay home. He grabbed his keys and drove there, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it. The drive was a blur. By the time he arrived, it was nearly nightfall. The parking lot was exactly what he'd expected: dim lighting, cracked paint on the lines, a row of identical faded blue doors. A neon sign flickered unevenly, spelling out "vacancy" with a few letters burned out. Brianna's car was parked near the entrance, impossible to miss. That silver sedan they'd bought together 2 years ago, still bearing her college decal. Parked neatly beside it was a black sedan Ethan recognized instantly. The custom license plate read TYL. Tyler. Her high school ex. The same Tyler Brianna had always mentioned with disdain, calling him immature, irresponsible, a loser who never grew up. The same Tyler she claimed to hate, swore she never wanted to see again, described as her biggest teenage mistake. And there his car was, right next to hers. Ethan sat in his car for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Of all the people in the world, she chose Tyler, the guy who treated her like crap when they were 17. And now his car was parked outside a rundown motel. He got out, legs trembling. The cold air carried the smell of oil mixed with fast food. He walked to the room door. He didn't know the number for sure, but her car was parked right in front of room 12, a dim light glowing through the thin curtains. Ethan stopped in front of it. He could hear muffled sounds, voices, laughter. He knocked. Once. Twice. On the third knock, the voices stopped, followed by hurried footsteps and someone tripping over something. "Shit, who is it?" A man's voice, annoyed. Ethan knocked again, harder this time. The door cracked open. There stood Tyler, shirtless, showing off that awful dragon tattoo. Confusion mixed with irritation quickly turned to panic when he saw who it was, eyes wide with fear. "Ethan, man, Ethan shoved the door open hard, slamming it against the wall. Tyler stumbled back, tripping over scattered clothes. And there, sitting on the rumpled bed with the sheet pulled up to her bare chest, was Brianna. Her eyes were wide with shock, her mouth open but no sound coming out. For a moment that felt like hours, no one spoke. The air was thick, suffocating, heavy with guilt. Ethan could hear the buzz of the TV, a commercial about insurance. He could smell cheap perfume mixed with sweat. The room was exactly as he'd imagined, peeling wallpaper, stained carpet, furniture decades old. "Ethan, I can explain," Brianna finally found her voice, but he raised his hand, cutting her off. "No. I don't want to hear it. Not a single word." Calm, controlled, eerily calm given the storm raging inside him. She shut her mouth, her eyes already filling with tears. "Tyler. Tyler." Ethan repeated the name as if testing its weight. "Of all the people, you chose the guy who treated you like garbage when you were 17. Brianna opened her mouth, but no words came out. "You know what's funny?" Ethan went on, crossing his arms and leaning against the doorframe like it was casual conversation. "I never suspected a thing. Not once crossed my mind. I thought you were stressed. I thought maybe you just needed space. But this?" He gestured broadly, to the room, to Tyler standing there helplessly, to the bed, to the clothes on the floor. "This is what you wanted? A sleazy motel room and an ex who never grew up?" "Ethan, please, you don't understand," Brianna pleaded, her voice desperate. "How long?" he cut in, his voice still calm but edged with steel. "Don't lie to me now. How long?" Brianna looked down, her shoulders slumping. "A few months," she murmured quietly. "A few months." Ethan repeated, nodding. The phrase echoed. "Months. Plural. Not days. Not weeks. Whole months of lies, fake kisses, meaningless I love yous, and broken vows. How many is a few? 3? 4? 6? She didn't answer, just kept staring at the floor. "Look at me," Ethan ordered, and when she didn't obey right away, he repeated it louder. "Look at me, Brianna." She reluctantly raised her eyes, tears streaming down her face, mascara smudged in dark streaks. "I'm your husband. I made vows to you. Promised to care for you, stand by you, love you. And you? You made me look like a fool. Made me look into your eyes and believe every lie. Made me think I was crazy for even doubting you. I'm sorry," she sobbed, but it sounded hollow, too desperate. "You're sorry?" Ethan gave a bitter laugh, no humor in it. "You're only sorry because you got caught. If I hadn't found out, you'd be right back here next week, next month, maybe even next year, and I'd still be at home thinking I had a happy marriage." Tyler tried to speak up. "Man, listen, it just happened, we didn't plan." "Shut up," Ethan snapped, turning with such intensity that Tyler flinched. "You don't get to talk. You're nothing. A pathetic ghost who couldn't move on. Stay quiet." Tyler shut his mouth, seeming to shrink. "All right," Ethan nodded, more to himself, taking a deep breath to keep control. "All right. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed to be sure before I did what I'm about to do." He turned to leave, each step heavy, but paused at the door, hand on the frame. Without looking back, he said, "Oh, and Brianna? You can keep him. You can keep this room. You can keep everything you've built here in this disgusting place. I don't want anything anymore. I don't want anything from you." He walked out, leaving the door wide open, dim light spilling into the dark hallway. He could hear Brianna calling his name, her voice rising in desperation, but he didn't look back, didn't hesitate. He walked to his car, got in, started the engine, and drove off, leaving behind the motel, the marriage, the promises, the years they'd built together. On the drive home, his hands shaking on the wheel, his vision blurred by tears he angrily blinked away, Ethan called a divorce lawyer. It was a number a coworker had given him years ago, half-jokingly, saying you never know when you'll need it. At the time, Ethan had laughed, said he'd never need it, his marriage was solid. Now, he was dialing at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, leaving a message about an urgent consultation for Monday. The next few days moved like autopilot, mechanical and numb while he processed the trauma. Ethan moved into the guest room on Saturday, dragging pillows and clothes while Brianna watched, trying to start conversations he either cut short or ignored completely. He was physically there, but emotionally, he'd already checked out. Monday morning, he was in the lawyer's office before his scheduled appointment. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with graying hair and the look of someone who'd seen this play out hundreds of times, got straight to the point. An uncontested divorce would be fastest. Asset division would be based on who brought what into the marriage. Since they had no kids and most of their assets were in Ethan's name, including the apartment he'd bought before they married, the process would be relatively simple. A few weeks, maybe a month. Brianna didn't push back. When the paperwork arrived, she signed everything without argument, without requesting revisions, without even hiring her own lawyer. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe because she knew she had no grounds to fight. 3 weeks later, on a cloudy Tuesday morning, Ethan was officially single. The documents arrived in the mail, stamped and final. End of the marriage. End of an era. He stared at the papers for a long time, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness, freedom and loss. Brianna didn't waste any time. A week after their official separation, photos of her and Tyler started popping up on social media. At first, they were subtle, just the two of them at a restaurant, no captions. Then came more. Lots more. Fancy dinners in expensive places, her in new dresses. Walks in the park, holding hands, posed shots with golden hour lighting. Bar selfies with colorful drinks. Overly wide smiles, tight embraces, sugary captions about fresh starts and finding true love when you least expect it. Ethan saw some of the posts by accident, when mutual friends shared or commented with things like, "So cute. You two are perfect together." Each photo felt like a punch to the gut, especially since he was still living in the apartment, surrounded by memories. But he didn't show it. He didn't post anything dark or passive-aggressive. He simply blocked Brianna on every platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn. He blocked Tyler too. He created a clean bubble, free of any trace of them. In the months that followed, Ethan focused methodically on himself, like he was following a recovery plan. He went back to the gym, something he'd abandoned during the marriage because Brianna always wanted to do other things, and he'd thought spending time with her mattered more. He started with 30 minutes on the treadmill, then gradually added weights. The physical exhaustion helped, tiring out his body quieted his mind. He started going out more with friends, accepting invites he used to decline. He discovered they were still there, still cared. Dinners, bars, game nights, even an impromptu trip to a cabin in the mountains. He rediscovered old hobbies. He pulled his guitar out of the closet, covered in dust after 3 years, and started practicing again, fingers sore at first but slowly regaining muscle memory. He returned to cooking elaborate meals that Brianna used to call too much work. Now he made them for himself, savoring the process as much as the result. It wasn't happiness yet, not that light, carefree kind. But it was measurable progress. Forward motion. A life being rebuilt, brick by brick. And then, 4 months after the motel confrontation, Brianna started texting him. The first message came on a Thursday afternoon. His phone buzzed, and when he looked at the screen, he saw her name. "Hey. How are you?" Ethan stared at it for a few seconds, feeling a pang of something he couldn't quite name. He deleted it and blocked the number. But the messages didn't stop. She found other ways: email, a new Instagram account, even messages left with mutual friends asking them to pass along notes. Each attempt grew more desperate. 2 days later, an email: "I'm so sorry for everything. I ruined it all. I ruined the best thing I ever had. Please, just give me a chance to explain. You deserve that." Ethan dragged it straight to the trash without even finishing it. The messages grew more frequent over the next few weeks, more desperate, more detailed. "Please, just give me a chance to explain. I made a terrible mistake, and I'll regret it forever. You were the best thing, and I threw it away like an idiot. Tyler isn't who I thought he was. He's not you. I love you. I've always loved you. That never changed." Ethan read each one with a strange mix of disbelief and something almost like pity. There was no satisfaction in seeing her beg. No sense of revenge fulfilled. Just a tired emptiness, looking at something that used to matter but now felt irrelevant. Through friends, gossip that reached him even though he tried to avoid it, he heard that her relationship with Tyler had collapsed. Tyler was back to being Tyler. Canceling plans. Disappearing for days. Flirting with other women right in front of her. Forgetting important dates. The intense passion from the motel turned out to be temporary, shallow, unsustainable when faced with reality. Her messages kept coming, becoming increasingly revealing about how badly things were going. "He cheated on me," said one. "He was seeing another woman the whole time," said another. "I lost everything for him, and he doesn't even care." And then, on a rainy October night, while Ethan was home watching a documentary about medieval history and eating lasagna he'd made that afternoon, she showed up at his door. He heard the doorbell and, without thinking, went to answer it. He opened it and there she was, Brianna, completely soaked from the downpour, hair plastered to her face, raindrops streaming down. She wore an old hoodie he recognized as his own. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, heavy-lidded, lashes clumped together. She looked small, shrunk somehow, as if the past months had drained something essential from her. "Ethan, please," she croaked, voice breaking. "I need to talk to you. Just give me 5 minutes." He didn't move from the threshold, hand on the doorknob, blocking her entry. "There's nothing to talk about, Brianna." "Please," she repeated, her voice rising in desperation, hands reaching out but not daring to touch him. "I know I don't deserve it, but please, just listen for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and I'll leave and never bother you again. I promise. I broke up with Tyler," she blurted out quickly, as if she had to say it before he closed the door. "He wasn't who I thought he was. He wasn't who I believed he'd become. He used me, Ethan. Made all these beautiful promises and then treated me worse than garbage. He'd go hours without replying, go out with other people, make me feel like I was nothing." Ethan let silence hang before answering, cold, measured. And I'm supposed to care? The question seemed to completely disarm Brianna. Her mouth opened and closed a few times before she found words. I thought you still cared. I thought maybe there was still a chance at what? Ethan cut in, his voice calm but unwavering. Getting back together? Another chance? Pretending none of it ever happened? No, that's not it, she rushed, wiping her face with the back of her hand in a useless gesture since the rain kept falling. I just wanted you to know I made the biggest mistake of my life. That I know it's unforgivable. But that I never stopped loving you, even when I was with him, even when I was doing those terrible things. You love me. Ethan repeated the words as if testing their weight, their truth, finding both insufficient. Did you love me when you were in that motel? When you were lying to my face every night? When you said you were with friends but were really with him? She had no answer. She just stood there, drenched in the rain that kept falling, washing away tears. Ethan stepped back, slowly starting to close the door, each inch a statement of finality. I cared, Brianna. Past tense. Notice the grammar? Cared. Past tense. When you were my wife, when I thought we had something real, when I believed in our vows. But you threw it all away for a guy who treated you like trash when you were 17, and still treats you like trash now. I know I was an idiot. You weren't an idiot, Ethan corrected, his voice steady in a way that was somehow worse than shouting. Idiots make thoughtless mistakes. You made conscious choices, repeatedly, for months. You chose to lie. You chose to cheat. You chose to go to that motel week after week. Those weren't idiotic decisions. They were deliberate choices, knowing exactly what you were doing and how much it would hurt me. Please, I've changed, you've changed. A short, bitter laugh. You changed because he dumped you. If Tyler were still treating you well, would you be here begging? Of course not. You'd be posting happy couple photos, still living your fantasy of a fresh start. You haven't changed. You just ran out of options. The truth visibly hit Brianna, her shoulders dropping even further. You made your choice, Ethan continued, his voice absolute, without hesitation. You chose him over me. You chose cheap motels over our home. You chose lies over honesty. You chose to destroy years of trust for a few months of, whatever that was. And me? I made my choice too. I chose to move on. I chose to rebuild myself. I chose to live without you. Ethan, move on, Brianna, he said, beginning to shut the door for good. I already have. Find someone else to validate you, someone else to make you feel special, someone else to clean up the mess you've made of your life. But it's not me. It'll never be me again. He closed the door before she could respond, the sound of wood hitting wood almost symbolic in its finality. He could hear her on the other side, sobbing uncontrollably, muffled but still clear, then footsteps walking away, splashing through puddles. Ethan stood there for a moment, leaning against the closed door, eyes shut, taking deep breaths. Part of him felt a twinge that resembled pity. But most of him, the part still carrying scars from the betrayal, felt nothing but necessary closure. He walked back to the couch, to the paused documentary, to the cooling lasagna. Life went on. The messages kept coming for weeks after that night, each one growing more desperate. I was so happy with you and didn't realize it until I lost you. I didn't appreciate what we had until I destroyed it. Can I see you one last time? Just for closure? Please. Each message tested Ethan's resolve. But he never gave in. He blocked the number again. Set up email filters to auto-delete her messages. Blocked every fake social media account she created. Systematically cut off every tendril of contact. Eventually, the attempts began to space out. Once a week became once a month became none at all. Whether she finally understood he wouldn't come back, found someone else, or just gave up, the silence was a relief, a blessing. 6 months after that motel confrontation, Ethan was at a cafe downtown. It was a sunny Saturday morning, one of those perfect spring days where the sky is impossibly blue and the air smells like new beginnings. He'd arranged to meet some coworkers to discuss a freelance project that might turn into a startup. He was near the counter, waiting for the barista to finish his coffee, when movement in the corner caught his eye. It was just peripheral at first, but something made him look. And there she was. Brianna. Sitting alone at a small table in the darkest corner, far from the windows and natural light, as if trying to hide. She had a coffee cup in front of her, but judging by how still it sat, she hadn't touched it in half an hour. She wore an oversized gray hoodie, hair in a messy ponytail, no makeup. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but mentally worn down, emotionally drained. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her clothes looked like they'd been the first thing she'd grabbed that morning. She'd lost weight too, not in a healthy way, but in a way that suggested eating had become an annoying chore rather than a pleasure. Her hands lay lifeless, one holding the cup, the other resting on the table. She looked up, maybe feeling the weight of his gaze, and their eyes met across the cafe. For a long, uncomfortable moment, they just stared at each other across the space between them, across the months that separated them, across everything that had happened and could never be undone. For the briefest second, Brianna looked hopeful, her eyes lighting up slightly, as if she might stand, walk over, try one more time to talk or apologize. Her hand even moved, like she was about to push back her chair. But Ethan simply looked away before she could do any of that. There was no hostility in the gesture, no performative anger. It was just indifference, a blank look, as if he'd glanced at any random stranger and then gone on with his day. When the barista called his name, he picked up his coffee, muttered thanks, and walked straight out, passing her table without a word, without a nod, without any acknowledgement that she'd once been the most important person in his life. He didn't look back. Not even once. Not even when he was already on the sidewalk and heard the door open behind him, maybe her trying to follow. He just kept walking, warm coffee in one hand, phone in the other, already checking messages from his co-workers, fully present in the moment, in the project they were planning, in the life he was building. Outside, under the golden morning light, Ethan paused for a moment at the corner, breathing in fresh air that carried the scent of flowers from newly planted sidewalk gardens. There was no anger left taking up space in his chest. No sharp pain when he thought of her or what had happened. Not even that melancholic sadness over the what-ifs and could-have-beens. Just a quiet sense of closure, a chapter that had been fully read, understood, processed, and finally filed away on the shelf of memories that didn't need revisiting. Ethan took a sip of his coffee, tasting its rich, slightly bitter flavor, and kept walking down the busy sidewalk, leaving the past exactly where it belonged, and where it would stay forever. Far behind. Buried beneath layers of time, healing, and personal growth. The life he had now, the life he was consciously building, was his and his alone. And that was more than enough. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.